The tray clattered to the floor. Passengers in rows 12 through 15 turned their heads as flight attendant Monica Hargrove stood over 7-year-old Marcus Thompson, her lips pressed into a thin line of disgust. "I said we don't have any meals left for your section," Monica repeated, her voice dripping with condescension as she emphasized those last two words. Marcus's brown eyes, still puffy from crying earlier that morning, welled up again. His small hands gripped the armrests of seat 14B, and his stomach growled loudly enough that the elderly woman across the aisle glanced over with concern. But I'm really hungry," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the aircraft engines. "We didn't eat breakfast because we had to catch the plane early." Monica crossed her arms, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the polyester fabric of her Navy uniform. At 42 years old, she'd been flying for ValueJet Airways for nearly 15 years, and in her mind, she'd earned the right to decide who deserved her service and who didn't. She leaned down, close enough that only Marcus and the nearby passengers could hear. "Listen, kid. Maybe if your people learned some manners and stopped causing problems on flights, we'd be more accommodating. But I've had enough of your kind this week." She straightened up, smoothing her blonde hair back into its tight bun. "Now sit still and be quiet. We'll be landing in 2 hours." Marcus felt his face burn with shame. He didn't understand what he'd done wrong. He'd been polite. He'd said please. His grandmother had taught him to always use his manners, especially with adults. The boy glanced at the empty seat beside him, the one where his dad was supposed to be sitting. 3 rows back, in seat 17A, Michael Thompson watched the entire exchange through the gap between the seats. His jaw clenched so tightly that his teeth ached. Michael was a tall man, 6'3", with close-cropped hair beginning to gray at the temples and the kind of commanding presence that made boardrooms go silent when he entered. Today, however, dressed in a simple gray hoodie and jeans, he looked like any other tired traveler. He'd deliberately booked himself separately from Marcus for this flight. It was a test, one his therapist had suggested after the divorce. Marcus needed to learn independence, to handle small challenges on his own. Michael would be nearby, watching, ready to step in if truly necessary. But he wanted his son to grow confident, to not always rely on his father to solve every problem. This wasn't a small challenge anymore. This was humiliation. This was racism, pure and simple, happening to his 7-year-old boy at 30,000 feet. Michael's phone was already in his hand, camera app open, recording everything. He'd caught the last 30 seconds of Monica's interaction with Marcus, including that venomous comment about your people and your kind. His finger hovered over the screen as he considered his next move. The man beside him, a heavy-set businessman in a rumpled suit, leaned over and muttered, "You seeing this? That's messed up, man. Somebody should say something." "Yeah," Michael replied quietly, still recording. "Somebody should. But not yet." He needed to see how far this would go. He needed to document it all. Because Michael Thompson wasn't just any concerned father on this flight. He was the newly appointed CEO of Skybridge International, the parent company that had just acquired ValueJet Airways in a hostile takeover 3 weeks ago. The deal had been finalized, the papers signed, but the announcement wouldn't go public until Monday morning, in exactly 3 days. Michael had specifically chosen to fly ValueJet today, incognito, to get a real sense of the company he now controlled. He'd read the customer complaints, seen the declining satisfaction ratings, heard whispers about cultural problems within the airline. But he'd wanted to experience it firsthand, to see if the issues were systemic or isolated. Now he knew. And it was worse than he'd imagined. Monica strutted back toward the galley, her heels clicking against the floor. She caught the eye of her colleague, Brenda, a younger flight attendant with auburn hair and nervous energy, who'd been watching from the galley entrance. "What was that about?" Brenda asked in a hushed tone as Monica entered the small kitchen area. Monica rolled her eyes. "Just another one who thinks the rules don't apply to him. I told them during boarding that economy meals are first come, first served. Not my problem if some people can't follow instructions." "But Monica, he's just a kid. And I saw at least 4 meals left in the—" "Drop it, Brenda." Monica's voice turned sharp. "You've been here, what, 8 months? I've been doing this for 15 years. I know how to handle my cabin. These people, they always want special treatment. Always complaining, always demanding. Well, not on my watch. Brenda shifted uncomfortably, glancing back toward Marcus's seat. The little boy had his head down now, shoulders shaking slightly. She'd seen him board earlier, noticed how polite he'd been, how he'd carefully stowed his backpack and fastened his seatbelt without being asked. This didn't feel right. I'm going to give him one of the extra meals, Brenda said quietly, reaching for the storage compartment. Monica's hand shot out, gripping Brenda's wrist. You'll do no such thing. I'm the senior attendant on this flight, and what I say goes. That boy doesn't get a meal. End of discussion. But that's not. End. Discussion. Monica's blue eyes were ice cold. Unless you want me reporting you for insubordination. Is that what you want? Because I can make sure you never fly again. Brenda pulled her hand back, her face flushing with anger and helplessness. She'd heard stories about Monica, about how she'd gotten 3 other flight attendants fired or transferred over the past 2 years. She had connections, friends in HR, a brother-in-law who was a regional manager. Monica Hargrove was, in airline parlance, untouchable. Back in seat 14B, Marcus tried to hold back his tears. He was scared and hungry and confused. His dad had told him this flight was a chance to be a big boy, to show that he could handle things on his own. But he felt so small right now, so helpless. He wanted to call out to his father, wanted to turn around and look for him, but he'd promised to stay in his seat and not make a fuss. The elderly woman across the aisle, Mrs. Chen, had been observing everything. At 76 years old, she'd lived through enough to recognize injustice when she saw it. She unbuckled her seatbelt and crossed the aisle, settling into the empty seat next to Marcus. "Hello, sweetheart," she said softly, her accented English warm and gentle. "My name is Susan. What's yours?" Marcus looked up, wiping his eyes quickly. "Marcus, ma'am. That's a strong name. Marcus." Susan smiled, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening. "You know what? I have a granola bar in my purse. Would you like it? I was saving it for later, but I think you need it more than I do." "Really?" Marcus's eyes brightened for the first time since boarding. "Really?" Susan pulled out a slightly squished granola bar and handed it to him. "Don't let mean people make you feel small, Marcus. You're worth more than they could ever understand." Marcus took the granola bar with both hands, like it was treasure. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Chen. You're really nice." "You're welcome, honey." Susan patted his hand, then raised her voice deliberately, loud enough for multiple rows to hear. Unlike some people on this plane who should be ashamed of themselves. Monica, who'd been scanning the cabin from the galley, heard the comment and felt her face flush red. How dare that old woman interfere? She started walking down the aisle, her expression thunderous. Michael, still recording from 3 rows back, felt his protective instincts surge. He unbuckled his seatbelt, ready to intervene if Monica approached Mrs. Chen or Marcus aggressively. But he held himself back, just barely. Not yet. Just a little longer. Monica stopped at row 14, towering over Mrs. Chen. "Ma'am, I need to ask you to return to your assigned seat. It's a safety violation to be seated elsewhere during the flight." Susan looked up at her calmly. "We're at cruising altitude, dear. And this seat is empty. I'm not bothering anyone. The seat is empty because it's assigned to someone else. You need to move. Now." "Who's it assigned to?" Susan asked innocently. "I don't see anyone's belongings here. No one came to claim it. So I'll stay right here with my new friend Marcus, thank you very much." Monica's voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "Move, or I'll have you escorted off the plane when we land." "For what? Sharing a granola bar?" Susan's voice remained sweet, but her eyes were steel. "Go ahead and try, sweetheart. I'm sure the other passengers would love to hear why you're harassing an elderly woman for showing kindness to a hungry child you refuse to feed." Several passengers were watching now, phones out, some recording. Monica realized she was losing control of the situation. Her face flushed darker, and she spun on her heel, marching back to the galley where Brenda stood with wide eyes. "Get the captain," Monica hissed. "Tell him we have a disruptive passenger situation. Monica, maybe we should just… Now, Brenda. As Brenda reluctantly headed toward the cockpit, Monica pulled out her own phone, fingers flying over the screen as she typed a text to her friend in HR, "Need backup. Have aggressive passengers targeting me. Might need to file complaints when we land. Cover me." The response came seconds later, "Always. Document everything. You know the drill." Monica smiled grimly. She'd played this game before. Complain first, complain loudest, paint yourself as the victim. HR would back her up like they always did. By the time anyone investigated, she'd have her story straight, corroborating witnesses from the crew, and the passengers would just be disgruntled travelers with an axe to grind. She had no idea that her entire world was about to collapse. Michael watched as the captain emerged from the cockpit 5 minutes later. Captain Rodriguez was a veteran pilot, mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. Brenda spoke to him quietly, gesturing toward row 14, and Michael saw the captain's expression shift from mild concern to confusion. Rodriguez walked down the aisle, stopping at Marcus and Mrs. Chen. "Good afternoon, folks. I understand there's been some kind of incident." Susan spoke first. "No incident, Captain. Just a hungry little boy who was refused food by that flight attendant." She pointed at Monica. "For no good reason. So I shared my snack with him. That's all." Rodriguez looked at Marcus. "Is that true, son? You were refused a meal?" Marcus nodded, his voice small. "Yes, sir. I asked politely, but she said there weren't any meals for my section. But other people got food." The captain's jaw tightened slightly. He'd been flying for 28 years, and he'd heard enough stories about Monica Hargrove to fill a logbook. Complaints had been filed before, but they always seemed to disappear into HR's black hole. He tried to get her removed from his flights, but his requests had been denied. "Personnel decisions," they told him. "Above your pay grade." "I see." Rodriguez looked at Monica, who'd followed him and was now standing with her arms crossed defensively. "Monica, can you explain why this child wasn't given a meal?" "We ran out of meals in economy, Captain. First come, first served policy. I announced it during boarding." Her voice was sugary sweet, professional. "That's interesting," said a voice from row 13. A young black woman in business attire stood up. "Because I boarded after this child, and I received a meal 30 minutes ago. So either you magically restocked, or you're lying." Another passenger, 2 rows ahead, raised his hand. "I was one of the last to board, and I got a meal too. White guy in 11C, for the record." Rodriguez's expression darkened. "Monica, step into the galley with me. Now." As they disappeared behind the curtain, the cabin buzzed with whispered conversations. Passengers were sharing what they'd witnessed, phone numbers being exchanged, videos being compared. Marcus clutched his granola bar, looking confused by all the attention. Mrs. Chun kept her arm around his shoulders. "You did nothing wrong, Marcus. Remember that. You spoke up for yourself. That takes courage." In the galley, Captain Rodriguez kept his voice low but firm. "Monica, I don't know what's going on here, but this is unacceptable. We have at least 4 meals left in storage. I can see them from here. And multiple passengers are contradicting your story." "They're lying, Captain. They're all in on it together, trying to make me look bad because… Because why, Monica? What possible reason would a plane full of strangers have to conspire against you?" Monica's mind raced. She was cornered and she knew it. These people, they stick together. You know how it is. They always play the race card when they don't get their way. The words hung in the air between them like poison gas. Rodriguez closed his eyes briefly, shaking his head. "Monica, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. You're going to take one of those meals, you're going to give it to that child with a smile and an apology, and when we land, you're going to file a full incident report admitting your error. Do you understand me? I will not apologize for doing my job. Then you'll be suspended pending investigation. Your choice." Monica's face went white. A suspension meant no pay. It meant HR scrutiny she couldn't control. It meant her perfect record, her untouchable status, would be at risk. She snatched a meal tray from the storage compartment, her hands shaking with rage. Michael watched as Monica emerged from the galley, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. She walked stiffly to row 14 and thrust the meal tray toward Marcus without making eye contact. Your meal. Apologies for the confusion. The words came out mechanical, rehearsed, completely devoid of sincerity. Marcus looked at the tray, then at Mrs. Chen, uncertain. Susan nodded encouragingly. It's okay, honey. Take it. Thank you, Marcus said quietly, his good manners reasserting themselves despite everything. Monica didn't respond. She turned and walked away, her shoulders rigid with anger. The businessman sitting next to Michael muttered, "That was the most insincere apology I've ever witnessed." Yeah, Michael agreed, finally stopping his recording. He had 43 minutes of footage now, from multiple angles as he discreetly shifted positions. Clear audio. Clear video. Undeniable evidence. He opened his email app and began attaching the files, typing quickly. To Legal Department, Skybridge International Subject. Urgent, ValueJet Flight 2847 Incident Documentation. Please see attached video evidence of severe discriminatory conduct by ValueJet employee Monica Hargrove, employee ID pending. This involves refusal of service to a minor based on apparent racial discrimination, hostile work environment creation, and gross violation of company values. Request immediate investigation and appropriate disciplinary action upon landing. I will be available for follow-up at landing. Michael Thompson CO, Skybridge International. He hit send, then sat back in his seat. In 3 days, his identity as CEO would be public knowledge. But by tomorrow morning, his legal team would have already begun the process of removing Monica Hargrove from the airline industry permanently. Some people wondered if he was being too harsh, moving too fast. But Michael Thompson hadn't built a reputation as a turnaround specialist by tolerating mediocrity or bigotry. When he'd accepted the CEO position at Skybridge, he'd promised the board he would transform the culture of their newly acquired airlines. He'd start with ValueJet. And he'd start today. For the next 90 minutes, the flight continued with an undercurrent of tension. Monica remained in the galley, avoiding the cabin. Brenda took over most of the service, apologizing quietly to passengers for the disruption. She stopped by Marcus's seat twice, making sure he had everything he needed, slipping him extra cookies when Monica wasn't looking. "Thank you," Marcus told her the second time. "You're really nice." Brenda smiled, but her eyes were sad. "You're a good kid, Marcus. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not." Mrs. Chun stayed beside Marcus for the rest of the flight, chatting with him about his interests. She learned that he loved dinosaurs, wanted to be a paleontologist, and was visiting his grandmother in Florida. His parents were divorced, and he split his time between them. His dad worked a lot, but always made time for their Friday movie nights. "Your father sounds like a good man," Susan observed. "He's the best," Marcus said with absolute certainty. "He always tells me to stand up for myself but to be polite about it. I don't think I did a very good job today." "Oh, honey, you did a wonderful job. You asked politely. You didn't yell or throw a tantrum. And when that lady was mean to you, you didn't become mean back. That takes real strength." Marcus considered this, chewing thoughtfully on a cookie. "My dad says that how people treat you says more about them than it does about you. Your father is a very wise man." 3 rows back, Michael felt his chest tighten with pride and heartbreak. His son had handled this situation with more grace than most adults would have. But no child should have to handle this situation at all. That was the point. That was why he was going to make sure this never happened again, not on his airline, not to anyone's child. As the plane began its descent into Tampa, Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom. "Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for landing. To all our passengers, we apologize for any inconvenience during today's flight. Your feedback is important to us, and we encourage you to share your experience with our customer service team. Thank you for flying ValueJet." Monica strapped herself into the jump seat, staring straight ahead. Brenda sat across from her, unable to meet her eyes. The rest of the flight crew had heard whispers of what happened, and the atmosphere was thick with judgment. When the plane touched down and taxied to the gate, Monica unbuckled immediately, ready to escape this nightmare flight. But Captain Rodriguez blocked her path as she tried to head for the exit. "Monica, you need to stay seated until all passengers have deplaned. Then you and I are going to have a conversation with ground services." "I don't see why that's necessary. It's not a request." Monica sank back into her seat, her mind racing through her options. She'd call her HR contact immediately. She'd file a hostile work environment complaint against the captain. She'd claim she felt unsafe, threatened by passengers. She'd been doing this long enough to know how to work the system. As passengers began filing off the plane, many of them stopped to say goodbye to Marcus and Mrs. Chen. The young woman in business attire handed Marcus her card. "You tell your dad to call me if he needs anything. I'm a lawyer, and what happened today was wrong. I'd be happy to help if needed." The businessman from row 17 did the same. "I'm sending my video footage to ValueJet's corporate office. That flight attendant shouldn't be working with people." One by one, passengers offered their support, their contact information, their witness statements. Marcus, overwhelmed by the kindness of strangers, could only nod and say thank you repeatedly. Michael waited until the crowd thinned, then stood and walked forward to row 14. Marcus's face lit up instantly. "Dad, I didn't know you were on the plane." "Surprise," Michael said, pulling his son into a tight hug. He looked over Marcus's head at Mrs. Chen. "Thank you for looking after my boy. He's a wonderful child. You should be very proud." Susan gathered her belongings, preparing to leave. "But I'm sure you already know that." "I do." Michael's voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you. Truly." As Mrs. Chen departed, Marcus looked up at his father with worried eyes. "Dad, did I do something wrong? Why was that lady so mean to me?" Michael knelt down so he was eye level with his son. "Marcus, you did absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing. That lady was mean because she has problems inside her that have nothing to do with you. Some people carry hate in their hearts, and sometimes they let it spill onto others. But that's their problem, not yours." "But why does she hate me? She doesn't even know me." How do you explain racism to a 7-year-old? How do you tell your child that some people will judge him, fear him, discriminate against him based solely on the color of his skin? How do you prepare him for a world that won't always see his brilliant mind, his kind heart, his gentle spirit? "Some people are scared of things that are different from them," Michael said carefully. "And when people are scared, sometimes they become mean. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it okay. But it's not about you being bad. It's about them not knowing how to be good." Marcus processed this, his young face serious. "Are you going to tell someone what she did?" "Yes, I am. Because when we see something wrong, we have to speak up. Just like you spoke up today, asking for food when you were hungry. That was brave. But I cried. Brave people cry too, buddy. Crying doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human." Michael stood, taking Marcus's hand. "Come on. Let's get our bags and go see Grandma. She's making your favorite dinner." "Mac and cheese with the breadcrumb topping?" "The very same." They walked toward the exit, where Captain Rodriguez was waiting with Monica and 2 ground service supervisors. Rodriguez's eyes widened in recognition when he saw Michael, though he kept his expression neutral. "Mr. Thompson. A word, please." Michael handed Marcus his phone. "Buddy, stand right there and play that dinosaur game for a minute, okay? Don't move from that spot." "Okay, Dad." Michael stepped aside with the captain and supervisors, keeping Marcus in his line of sight. Monica stood nearby, her arms still crossed, her face a mask of defiance. "Mr. Thompson," Rodriguez began quietly, "I want to apologize on behalf of ValueJet for what your son experienced today. I've requested an investigation, and Ms. Hargrove will be placed on administrative leave pending the outcome." "That's a start," Michael said, "but I think we both know this isn't an isolated incident with Ms. Hargrove." Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. "I can't comment on personnel matters." "You don't have to." Michael pulled out his phone, opening his email. "I've already forwarded documentation to the legal department. 43 minutes of video evidence, time-stamped, with audio. Ms. Hargrove explicitly stated that she refused service to my son because of his kind and his people. That's not a personnel matter. That's a federal discrimination case. Monica's face went white. You were recording? Every second, Michael confirmed, along with at least 6 other passengers. The footage is already in the hands of my legal team. Your legal team? Monica's voice rose. Who the hell do you think you are? Michael turned to face her fully for the first time. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost gentle, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. My name is Michael Thompson. As of 3 weeks ago, I am the Chief Executive Officer of Skybridge International, the parent company that now owns ValueJet Airways. This was my first flight on one of our airlines. I wanted to see how we treated our customers. The blood drained from Monica's face. Captain Rodriguez's eyes widened. The 2 ground supervisors exchanged panicked glances. As CEO, my first priority is ensuring that every passenger, regardless of race, age, or background, is treated with dignity and respect. My second priority is building a culture where employees feel empowered to do the right thing, not bullied into silence by toxic colleagues. Michael's gaze never left Monica's face. You failed on both counts. You discriminated against a child. You threatened your coworker when she tried to correct your behavior. And you demonstrated exactly the kind of corporate rot that I was brought in to eliminate. Monica's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Her carefully constructed world of connections and protections was crumbling around her. Effective immediately, you are terminated from ValueJet Airways. You will be escorted from the airport premises. Your final paycheck will be mailed to your address on file. Your benefits end today at midnight. And I will be personally ensuring that this incident becomes part of the FAA's flight attendant registry, which means no other airline will hire you. You can't do this. Monica finally found her voice. I have rights. I have union protection. I'll sue. You can try, Michael said mildly. But I have 43 minutes of video evidence showing you discriminating against a minor based on race. I have audio of you threatening your coworker. I have witness statements from multiple passengers. And I have the full resources of Skybridge International's legal department behind me. How do you think that lawsuit will go? Monica's face twisted with rage and desperation. This is discrimination. You're firing me because I'm white. I'm firing you because you're racist. There's a difference. Michael turned to the ground supervisors. Please escort Ms. Hargrove from the premises. Security should ensure she doesn't access any employee areas or systems. As security officers appeared to take Monica away, she lunged toward Michael, screaming, You think you're so high and mighty. You people always think you're victims. Always looking for a reason to play the race card. The security officers caught her, holding her back as she continued to shout. Passengers who hadn't yet left the gate area stopped and stared, phones out, recording. You people with your fake outrage and your... Ma'am, you need to calm down, one of the security officers said firmly. You're making this worse for yourself. As Monica was led away, still shouting, Michael felt a small hand slip into his. Marcus had come over, despite being told to stay put. He looked scared. Dad? Is everything okay? Michael picked up his son, holding him close. Everything's fine, buddy. Let's go see Grandma. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his voice low. Mr. Thompson, I want to thank you. I've been trying to get someone to listen about Monica for 2 years. She's driven good people out of this airline, made passengers feel unwelcome. And every time I reported it, my concerns vanished into HR. Not anymore, Michael promised. Starting Monday, we're implementing new protocols. Direct reporting to the executive level for discrimination complaints. Anonymous tip lines. Regular culture audits. And I'm cleaning house in HR. Anyone who enabled this kind of behavior will be looking for new employment. Rodriguez nodded, relief visible on his face. If you need anything from me, witness statements, documentation, I'm at your service. I'll take you up on that. And Captain? Thank you for trying. A lot of people wouldn't have bothered. As Michael carried Marcus toward baggage claim, He felt his son's arms tighten around his neck. Dad? That lady called us, you people. What does that mean? Michael's heart broke a little more. It means she doesn't see us as individuals. She sees our skin color first and makes assumptions based on that. It's wrong. It's ignorant. But unfortunately, it's something you're going to encounter in life. Will it always be like this? No, buddy. Most people are good. Most people will see you for who you are, a smart, kind, amazing kid who loves dinosaurs and makes his dad proud every single day. But sometimes you'll meet people like that lady. And when you do, you remember what happened today. You remember that there are more good people than bad. Mrs. Chin who shared her granola bar. Brenda who kept checking on you. Captain Rodriguez who stood up for what was right. All those passengers who gave us their information to help. Good people, Marcus. Focus on them. Okay. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Dad, are you going to be on TV now? Since you're the boss of the airline. Michael laughed despite himself. Probably. The announcement goes public on Monday. Can I tell my friends? Not until Monday. Right now, it's still a secret. Okay. Another pause. Dad? Thank you for standing up for me. Even though I know you wanted me to handle it myself. Oh, Marcus. Michael stopped walking, setting his son down so he could look him in the eyes. You handled it perfectly. You were polite. You asked for help. You didn't lose your temper. I'm so proud of you. But when someone discriminates against you, when someone mistreats you because of your race or anything else you can't control, that's when adults need to step in. That's when the system needs to work. And if it doesn't, that's when people like me need to fix the system. Are you going to fix the airline? I'm going to try. It's going to take time, and there will be a lot of people who resist change. But yeah, I'm going to fix it. Marcus nodded solemnly, processing this. Then his face brightened. Can we still get ice cream before Grandma's house? Michael grinned. Absolutely. Extra sprinkles. Over the next 72 hours, the incident went viral. Multiple passengers had uploaded their footage to social media, and news outlets picked up the story. By Saturday morning, #ValueJet discrimination was trending worldwide. The video of Monica being escorted away while screaming racial epithets had been viewed 12 million times. Michael's legal team worked overtime, preparing documentation and responses. By Sunday afternoon, ValueJet issued a public statement. ValueJet Airways has zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind. The employee involved in Friday's incident has been terminated, and we are conducting a thorough review of our policies and training programs. We apologize sincerely to the passenger who was mistreated and to all who witnessed this unacceptable behavior. We are committed to ensuring this never happens again. On Monday morning, Skybridge International held a press conference to announce Michael Thompson as the new CEO. But instead of the typical corporate messaging, Michael opened with a story. On Friday, I took my first flight as CEO of this company. I flew incognito as a regular passenger, wanting to see how we treated our customers. What I witnessed was my 7-year-old son being denied food because of his race. I watched a flight attendant with 15 years of service openly discriminate against a child, threaten a coworker who tried to intervene, and demonstrate exactly the kind of toxic culture that destroys companies from within. The room full of reporters went silent. I'm not standing here today to paint myself as a hero. I'm standing here to acknowledge that we have a serious problem in this industry. Discrimination, harassment, and toxic workplace cultures are not anomalies. They're symptoms of systems that protect bad actors and silence good people. Michael paused, letting that sink in. Starting today, Skybridge International is implementing comprehensive reforms across all our airlines. We're creating independent oversight for discrimination complaints. We're requiring bias training at every level, including executive leadership. We're conducting culture audits and exit interviews. And we're making it clear, if you cannot treat every passenger and coworker with dignity and respect, you have no place in this company. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Thompson, critics say you acted too hastily in firing Monica Hargrove. That she deserved due process, a chance to defend herself. What's your response? My response is that I have 43 minutes of video evidence showing her discriminating against a child and threatening a coworker. Due process doesn't mean protecting people who engage in clear, documented misconduct. It means ensuring decisions are based on evidence, which this was. Another reporter jumped in. But don't you think playing the race card undermines legitimate claims of discrimination? Michael's expression hardened. With respect, that question reveals exactly the kind of thinking we need to challenge. When a white flight attendant explicitly tells a black child that she won't serve your kind and makes comments about your people, that's not playing the race card. That's facing racism. And anyone who can't distinguish between legitimate claims and manufactured grievances is part of the problem. The press conference continued for another hour, with Michael fielding questions about company culture, oversight mechanisms, and his vision for transformation. But it was his closing statement that made headlines around the world. My son asked me if it will always be like this. If he'll always face discrimination because of his skin color. I told him the truth, that there are more good people than bad in this world. But I also made him a promise. I promised him that in the spaces where I have power, where I have influence, I will use it to make things better. That's my promise to every employee, every passenger, every stakeholder of this company. We will do better. We will be better. And if you can't meet that standard, you'll need to find somewhere else to work. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Over the next 6 months, Michael fired 3 HR executives, restructured the entire complaints process, and personally met with dozens of employees who'd been silenced or sidelined for speaking up about workplace issues. Brenda, the flight attendant who tried to help Marcus, was promoted to a training role, helping develop new anti-discrimination protocols. Captain Rodriguez became an advisor to the executive team, providing frontline perspective on operational culture. And Monica Hargrove? She attempted to sue for wrongful termination, claiming she was the real victim of discrimination. The lawsuit was dismissed within 3 months. The judge reviewed the video evidence, read the witness statements, and concluded that her termination was not only justified but necessary. Her application to work for other airlines was rejected repeatedly once her FAA record was updated. She disappeared from social media, her name forever linked to one of the most publicized cases of airline discrimination in recent history. 1 year after the incident, Marcus Thompson stood in his second-grade classroom for show and tell. He held up a photo of himself sitting in an airplane seat, smiling despite the tear stains still visible on his cheeks. "This is a picture my dad took of me after something bad happened," Marcus told his classmates. "A mean lady wouldn't give me food on an airplane because of how I look. But my dad, he's the boss of airlines now, and he made sure she couldn't be mean to other kids. And lots of nice people helped me that day too." His teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, smiled gently. "What did you learn from that experience, Marcus?" Marcus thought carefully, the way his father had taught him to do. "I learned that there are mean people in the world, but there are way more nice people. And I learned that when something bad happens, you should tell someone. Because grown-ups can help fix things." "That's very wise, Marcus." "Oh, and I learned that my dad is really, really good at his job." Marcus grinned. "He fired that mean lady in like 2 minutes." The classroom erupted in laughter, and even Ms. Rodriguez couldn't help but smile. That evening, Michael picked Marcus up from school and took him to their favorite ice cream shop, a Friday tradition they'd maintained even through the chaos of the past year. "So, buddy, how was show and tell?" Michael asked as Marcus attacked a chocolate cone with rainbow sprinkles. "Good. I told everyone about the airplane thing. Tommy said his dad flies ValueJet now and says it's way better than it used to be." "That's good to hear." Michael took a bite of his vanilla cone. "You know, I've been thinking. Maybe next year, when you're 8, we should take a trip together. Just you and me. Anywhere you want to go." "Anywhere. Anywhere." Marcus's eyes lit up. "Can we go to Montana? To the dinosaur museum? The one with the T-Rex fossils?" "Absolutely. We'll fly there on one of our planes, and I'll make sure you get the best meal service in the history of aviation." Marcus giggled, then grew serious. "Dad? Do you think that lady ever said sorry? Like really sorry?" Michael considered his answer carefully. "I don't know, Marcus. Some people never learn to apologize or change. But you know what? That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to treat people right, to stand up when we see something wrong, and to keep being good people even when others aren't. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. Marcus nodded, processing this wisdom the way 7-year-olds do, storing it away for future reference. Then he grinned, his mood shifting with the quick resilience of childhood. Can we go to the park after this? I want to practice my soccer kicks. Sure thing, buddy. As they left the ice cream shop, Marcus's small hand in his, Michael thought about how one moment, one flight, one act of hatred had set in motion a chain of events that changed thousands of lives. Not just Monica losing her job, but systemic reforms that protected vulnerable employees and passengers across an entire airline network. Sometimes change required a catalyst. Sometimes it required someone with power willing to use it for good. And sometimes, it required a 7-year-old boy with the courage to ask for a meal he was entitled to, even when faced with cruelty. 3 years later, ValueJet Airways received the Global Aviation Diversity Award for outstanding commitment to inclusive culture. Michael accepted the award on behalf of the company, but he brought Marcus on stage with him, now 10 years old and confident. This award doesn't belong to me, Michael told the audience of industry leaders and executives. It belongs to every employee who speaks up when they see injustice. It belongs to every passenger who refuses to accept discrimination as normal. And it belongs to my son, who at 7 years old showed more grace under pressure than most adults ever will. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Marcus leaned into the microphone, his voice clear and strong. My dad always says that one person can make a difference. And he's right. But I also learned that it takes a lot of people choosing to be good to really change things. So thank you to everyone who chooses to be good. As they left the stage, Marcus tugged on his father's sleeve. Dad? Do you think Mrs. Chin saw that? The nice lady from the plane. I don't know, buddy. But I hope so. Actually, Susan Chen had watched the entire ceremony from her living room in Seattle, tears streaming down her weathered face. She'd followed Marcus and Michael's story over the years, had saved every article, every update. On her refrigerator was a photo that a flight attendant had taken that day, her sitting next to Marcus, sharing her granola bar, both of them smiling despite everything. She picked up her phone and sent a text to the number Michael had given her years ago. I saw the ceremony. You raised an extraordinary young man. Tell him his friend Mrs. Chin is very proud. Michael's phone buzzed during the reception. He read the message and smiled, showing it to Marcus. She remembered. Marcus's face lit up. Can we write her back? Absolutely. Together, father and son composed a response, Marcus dictating while Michael typed. Dear Mrs. Chen, thank you for always being nice to me. I still remember the granola bar and how you stayed with me when I was scared. You're one of the good people. Love, Marcus. P.S. I'm going to be a paleontologist and an airline pilot when I grow up. As Michael hit send, he reflected on how a single moment of kindness from a stranger had impacted his son so profoundly. In a world that had shown Marcus cruelty, Susan Chen had shown him humanity. And in the end, that's what had sustained them both through the difficult months that followed. The fight against discrimination, against systemic racism, against toxic corporate cultures would never truly be over. There would always be another Monica Hargrove, another system protecting bad actors, another child facing cruelty they didn't deserve. But there would also always be people like Susan Chin, like Captain Rodriguez, like Brenda. People who chose kindness when cruelty was easier. People who stood up when sitting down was safer. People who saw a child in need and simply helped, expecting nothing in return. And there would be people like Marcus, growing up with the knowledge that one person's hatred didn't define him, that he had worth beyond what others saw when they looked at his skin, that he had a father who would move mountains to protect him and a world full of strangers who would stand beside him. That night, as Michael tucked Marcus into bed, his son asked one final question. Dad? If you could go back and change what happened on that airplane, would you? Michael thought about it. The pain Marcus had experienced. The trauma of facing racism so young. The way his son had cried, hungry and confused and hurt. But he also thought about the changes that had followed. The policies implemented. The employees protected. The passengers who now flew safely, knowing their dignity would be respected. The culture transformed. No, buddy. I wouldn't change it. Because from that one horrible moment, we created something better. We turned pain into purpose. And you helped do that. You showed the world what courage looks like. Marcus smiled sleepily. I think Mrs. Chen helped too. And you. And lots of people. That's exactly right. It takes all of us, choosing to be better every single day. As Marcus drifted off to sleep, Michael stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching his son's peaceful face. Tomorrow, Marcus would wake up and be a regular kid again, worried about homework and soccer practice and what was for breakfast. But he would wake up in a world Michael had helped make a little bit better, a little bit safer, a little bit more just. And that, Michael thought as he quietly closed the door, was worth everything.